All right, let's dive into one of the most powerful prophecies in all of Scripture. We're talking about the final act of the allegory of the olive tree. And look, this isn't just some story about old school farming. It's seen as this incredible, divine blueprint for the last great gathering of the house of Israel.
And it all hinges on this one really desperate plea. I mean, just imagine the scene. After centuries and centuries of work, the master of the vineyard looks out and sees that his entire vineyard, which represents the whole world, is completely corrupt. Every single tree is producing bad fruit. Judgment feels like it's right around the corner. But then, the servant steps in and begs for just one last chance, one final push to save it all.
And guess what? The master agrees. And that decision, it sets the stage for everything we're about to look at in verses 61 through 70 of Jacob chapter 5. This is the detailed game plan for this final, super crucial season of work before the end.
So the very first step, right here in verse 61, is a call to action. The master tells his servant, "Go and call more servants." Now, these servants are often seen as the leaders who are called during the restoration. And their task? It's huge. They have to labor with all their might to get the world ready for the return of that natural fruit.
Then you get to verse 62, and the language is just, wow, it's so direct. There's no ambiguity here. The master flat out declares, "This is for the last time that I shall prune my vineyard." You can just feel the urgency, right? This isn't just another round of work. This is it, the final intervention before the end.
Yeah, that declaration just locks it all in. This is the one last time. Think about it. This allegory has already covered thousands of years of history, scattering, apostasy, different periods of trying to nourish the trees. But this final part, it's totally different. This is the decisive final act to try and redeem the whole vineyard before it's ultimately cleansed by fire.
Okay, now here's where things get really interesting. The master's strategy for this final effort is, well, it's completely counterintuitive. It almost seems like he's flipping the natural order of things on its head.
So what on earth does this divine reversal in verse 63 actually mean? The instruction is to start with the last so they can become first, and have the first become last. I mean, how do you even interpret that in a real historical context?
Well, this is often looked at as a kind of prophetic timeline. The last is seen as the work that kicked off in America back in 1830, specifically with the descendants of Lehi's family who came from Jerusalem. So that spiritual gathering, it happened before the huge physical gathering of the first, the Jews, back to their homeland of Israel, which really took off after 1948. So you see, the last branches were taken care of spiritually before the first.
But, it's not just the order of the work that's important. The method is just as critical. This final push isn't some sudden, drastic overhaul. No, it's a process that needs a ton of care and patience and balance.
Just look at the instruction in verse 65. It's incredibly specific. As the new good grafts start to grow, the servants are told to clear away the branches making bad fruit. But, and this is the key part, they are explicitly warned not to do it all at once. So, why the hesitation? Why be so cautious?
And this right here really gets at the genius of the whole plan. If you just went in and hacked off all the bad branches at once, it'd be way too risky. The super powerful roots would just overwhelm the tiny new grafts. It's like trying to power a tiny light bulb with a lightning strike. But by pruning slowly, bit by bit, the strength of the roots and the top of the tree stay in balance. It gives the good branches a fighting chance to get strong and eventually take over the whole tree.
And as verse 66 shows us, this very delicate, gradual process has a clear finish line. It keeps going until the good shall overcome the bad. And at that exact point, all the bad branches that are left get hewn down and cast into the fire. The vineyard is finally completely cleansed.
So all of this careful pruning brings us to the climax of the master's entire plan, this great unification, bringing all the scattered pieces of the house of Israel back together into one single healthy tree.
Now, to really get what happens next, we need to be crystal clear on this one symbol. The natural tree, which is also called the mother tree. That represents the original house of Israel. Think of it as the source, centered both historically and spiritually in its ancestral homeland.
So right here in verse 67, Zenos is describing a literal physical gathering. The branches of the natural tree that's interpreted as the scattered Jewish people. And they're going to be grafted again into the natural tree, which means back into their ancestral homeland. This is often seen as a direct prophecy of the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel in our modern times.
Okay, verse 68 can feel a little complicated at first glance, but it's really just describing the next phase of the plan. You have other scattered remnants of Israel, like the lost 10 tribes, and they're going to be grafted in with the natural branches. That's the group that has already gathered. The whole point, the ultimate goal, is to bring all these scattered pieces back together and heal all those ancient divisions for good.
And they shall be one. I mean, that's it. That's what it all comes down to. This is presented as the ultimate purpose of God's work across all of history. No more separate branches, no more competing groups, but one single unified body, finally producing the pure, natural fruit it was always meant to.
And that brings us to verse 70, the last verse we're focusing on today. After laying out this absolutely massive, sweeping plan for redemption, the allegory ends with this humble, almost startling fact about the people who are actually called to do this work.
And they were few. Just let that sink in for a second. The job is to gather all of scattered Israel, cleanse the entire world, and prepare for the end. I mean, it's a task of cosmic epic importance. And yet, the number of servants who are called to do it is small. They were few.
And that really leaves us with a powerful question to think about, doesn't it? If this is the final urgent season of labor, what does it mean to be one of the few? What kind of responsibility, what kind of privilege is placed on that small group chosen to help the master and his vineyard for the very last time?